Yes.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. Recap game Saturday. MVPs in the game. Darius Alexander on defense was, I thought, very disruptive the entire day. Very productive. Filled that point production chart up on defense, and really had a really great game. Special teams wise, Avery Smith with a huge block punt. Dylan Keenan with some big time field goals and some tough critical situations, and then offense, Jerwan Newton, I thought was very consistent. Had one of his better games as a Rocket, and that's saying a lot for that guy. So 3 highlighted really solid individual efforts there, and then supplemented by a bunch of other really good play. Braden Knowles with a crazy game, potential ceiling interception. Jackson Barrow recovering an onside kick. Lots of really plays like that stuck out in the game that aided us in a good team victory. So Miami's a good team, and each and every week here from here on out, headed into Buffalo this week, is going to continue to be difficult. So got to handle the trip going out there. I think this team's a very well-coached team, very sound in the kicking game, really good on defense, and trying to really find out who they are on offense and build around that quarterback who's talented. So we got a tough task ahead of us this week. Got to have a great week of practice, and looking forward to get back on the practice field tomorrow. So that being said, I'll take a question.
Well, we've talked a lot this year about the D-line, especially after the game Saturday. I think 59 yards might be the leading rusher for an opponent this season. What do you think they do best? Why are they so havoc-inducing?
Well, they're very disruptive in all phases, right? And I think not only the disruptive in all phases, like that pressure can be continued. It continues to happen because they rotate and play a lot of guys. So our better players are fresh in the fourth quarter. And I think that, it matches up schematically with what we're able to do from a coverage standpoint, because those guys are able to hold in there and cover for a little bit longer, and at half a second continues to make a bigger difference, as it pertains to putting pressure on the quarterback and hurrying his decision-making process. And, we've had games where, the focal point of the other team's offense is the running game. And we've had other games where it's not the running game, and we've been able to hold in there and really be consistent in the run defense in both scenarios. So a good plan by our defensive coaches, really good job by Coach O of development, and then some really good players over there on that front.
I mean, you want a good D-line no matter what conference you play in or whatnot, but in terms of this league in particular, these next 7 games, to be able to limit the run and to maybe create stress on the quarterback, how important is that? How big of a key is that for you?
Well, I mean, we play football here in Northwest Ohio. We're not in South Florida or some warm weather climate that's going to provide you with 80-degree days the rest of the football schedule. So, how do you win in those elements? You have to control the line of scrimmage. You have to take care of the football. You have to be really good at situational football. And when you're able to control the line of scrimmage offensively and defensively, I think that's a recipe for success. And obviously there's a lot of parts of our team that are still a work in progress, those guys included. But that's always the goal if you want to play meaningful games in November.
Connor Wallenczak's 32-yard run was the longest so far that we've seen this season. What's it going to take to start to get more explosive run plays offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, you're talking about a defensive scheme there that is an extra hat at the line of scrimmage the entire time, and they're going to force you to be really creative in how you scheme the run game. And that has to marry with good play action passes and supplemented by really some good drop back passing concepts too. But, I think those are consistency of healthy bodies on the offensive front. The longer this thing progresses and everybody, the familiarity with one another around the quarterback continues to get 1 week better. We've ran the ball effectively here for a long time, and the approach and the philosophy of this is not going to change. And that's just who we are, and that's how it has to be. So we're going to continue to work really hard at it, and hopefully we see some of those things pop through here soon.
For Connor specifically, what have you liked about his development from a freshman last year to now, especially with potentially Willie's injury as well, having to take on a bigger role?
Yeah, I think that Connor is any young freshman always has the opportunity to be impactful in the kicking game, and I think he played almost 200 reps last year in the kicking game, him and Braden Knowles both, and now you're seeing both of those guys take a next step forward as it pertains to impactful plays on offense and on defense. Rock star human being in the sense that there's a guy that's dialed into what it takes to be the best version of himself, can be super successful after graduation as it pertains to what he wants to do with his career. A local guy, so he's able to jump ahead of the curve a little bit, as a freshman and be around the building. just because of the proximity of where he's at. And, I think he's just done a good job of trying to be the best teammate he can be and be the best version of himself. He's dealt with some adversities when it comes to injuries and that kind of stuff, but he's a guy that's created a lot of trust. And, when a high-level player creates a lot of trust, usually good things happen.
But Buffalo's a place that's not exactly been kind to you. What makes it difficult playing there, that team in particular? I know that new coaching staff this year, but just kind of what do you think about the issues or whatnot you've had at Buffalo?
Yeah, it's a hard trip. It's the longest one in our league for us. There and probably DeKalb are probably 1-2 or 2-1 either way there. But it's just you got to get practice done on Friday. You got to get on the bus. You got to take the 5-hour trip. You got to get off the bus and get ready to play a noon game the next day. And that's not any different. Same challenges lie ahead this week. So there's some really good teams that we've lost to over there in the past that have really stressed us in all 3 phases, and this team will do the same thing. So got to be at our best. Got to have a great week, and treat this one just like every other one that we do, and handle it.
What contract extension was announced this morning? What have you learned about building a program? Obviously, you're a really young head coach, but I think you were the youngest D1 coach at the time. Just those 9+, 8+ years you've been here, what have you learned about building a program and sustaining it?
Well, I think that some things that you make a big deal when you're a first-time head coach, you realize at the end of the day, as you get older and you go through this, that those aren't a big deal. We had a lot of success early in my career. We won 20 games in my first 2 years here, and we're at a place where assistant coaches come and go, and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables that go into this. And I think just the consistency of the people that are in these seats and just continue to recruit high-level people that really love football and that are like-minded like you and your coaching staff, that ultimately gives you a chance to be successful on the days of the year that there's not a football game. And I've said it 100 times, I'll say it again. I mean, to be really good on game day, you have to be good in the other days out of the calendar as well. And our team's embraced that. They've done a good job of that. We've been very fortunate here the last 4 or 5 years that we've had some really good people at key positions that were a clear picture of what a young guy could just open his eyes and watch how this guy moved and watch how he handled himself and how he approached his work and how he approached his business. And I think that's so impactful in moving the program forward. And a lot of places have good seasons, and everybody wants to win a championship each and every year, and you highlight that. But to be able to do it with great consistency, you have to have clear examples of what that looks like. And young players really have to pay attention, and they have to then take those things and apply that to their own game, and I could give you lots of examples. I mean, I see Avery Smith sitting back there. He's having a fantastic year so far. I mean, I really paid attention to what Quinion Mitchell was doing last year. Braden Halls is back there. He's really watched Max and Hook grow when he was a younger player. I'm sure that growing up in the city of Toledo, he saw Tyson Anderson playing football here, and that was a clear picture of what success looks like for him. And these guys not only have been successful people and successful students, they're also pro football players too. So that carries the message forward. Continue to recruit good people and really do a great job of pouring every ounce of energy and resources that you have available to you into them so they can be the best version of themselves, and that ultimately repays everybody back.
How do you feel like you've kind of grown into the role of head coach from being this 30-whatever-year-old guy to now? I think you're the most veteran guy in the MAC.
Don't put me in that category. I got the most gray hair, but I'm not the most veteran guy in the league.
But just how do you feel like 8 years in now? It probably just feels a little second nature to it.
I think that it feels like we just got this thing going not too long ago. That's a fast timeline. That goes by quickly, and it always feels, each and every year it feels like from the last minute of the last game to the next year. That seems like a long time. And then when the season gets here, it goes by really, really quick. And this year no different. I mean, my gosh, we're almost halfway through here. But there's lessons along the way that you pick up that are good, that are bad. You try to highlight the really good and apply them, and how do you enhance those things in the off season, and the things that you didn't do very well in the previous season, you got to address them. You got to tell yourself the truth, and you got to fix the mistakes. And sometimes those are hard conversations you got to have with the people in your corner, and you got to have with yourself, and you got to have in your meeting rooms, and sometimes with really good players. So continue to tell yourself the truth. Have open and honest conversations with the people in the building, and have a burning desire to continue to get better. And I don't think that's ever changed for me from the time I became an assistant coach till the time that I hang a whistle on the wall and say, this is it. That's always going to be consistent. And You know, the minute that you feel like you can't give the same amount of energy and effort to it that you did when you were, 25 or 26, like, what are you doing? Why are you coaching? Get out of it. Because it's really not about me or anybody. It's about the development of the people that you're around and trying to do the best job you can for them.
You talk about being very process driven all the time in your culture. What do you think has changed the most within your process, given the lessons you've learned over your time as a head
Well,
coach
just
here?
like having experiences be your best teacher, right? And, anything that you do for a long time, I mean, whether you're a journalist or whether you're a coach, whether, a parent, I mean, you're gonna make mistakes and, that are gonna be man on man. Like, that's the first time I was ever in that scenario. Maybe you didn't handle that the right way. And some people, I think, are, they're blind to the fact that they made a mistake. Like, I'm far from perfect, our team is far from perfect, our assistant coaches are far from perfect, but what I think we do is do a good job of trying to reset and understand each and every game is its own individual challenges and its own individual identity, and you got to do the best job you can from Saturday to Saturday preparing those guys to go play really, really well, and sometimes that takes brutal honesty and brutal truths.